what's the biggest surprising thing that you've learned with virtual events that maybe you wouldn't have thought of before this whole thing started?
Well, we were surprised that they were positively reacted to that, like people attended. So we have these workshops that we hold, and they're physical workshop with hands-on training, and they're all done in person. So we did user group and physical workshops, and literally within a week, we flipped it to virtual, and we thought, gosh, we'd be happy if we had a few. And we had a waiting list, and there were many people attending. So I was pleasantly surprised. But of course, now that everybody's kind of moving to virtual, it'll be interesting to see how we keep up with that, because it does become spamming, right? I think we don't want to do emailing all the time. So how do we engage in a meaningful way? But that was probably the biggest. It was a good surprise, but I was surprised.
So many companies have lost their physical interaction channels with their customers. Digital has become the only channel that's actually meaningful now. So being able to optimize that channel becomes really important. So we've pivoted around which products we're prioritizing, which of course has generated new needs around content and use case development that are relevant now and timely now. So that has been rolled into our ABM programs, the partnership between marketing and sales about how we're targeting, which companies we're talking to, the stories that we're telling, is become really a critical part of our, and I don't think we've solved that entirely yet. We're still working through the changes. It's continued to be a focus for us. And I think probably the biggest challenge we face with the virtual events is really to try to replicate the physical interactions that would have occurred in a physical setting with our city tours and our local events, and have the sales involvement occurring at the same level virtually. So we have the similar kinds of outcomes, and that's still a model that's in progress.
A lot of times it is very sort of top of funnel, high level strategic stuff. What's worked really well for us is data campaigns. So being able to surface what are those trends in the market. That has held true even during this pandemic. So one of the first things we did was we did a quick survey of our retailers, right? Where are you guys? What's going on? What have you had to do to accommodate this new normal with your customers? What do you anticipate is going to happen, including, how are you readjusting your sales forecast, that sort of thing, and how can we help?
A few of you have mentioned account-based marketing. I wanted to call on Holly to share with us your thoughts on ABM now that the world has changed, and where do you think it's going as we try and return to what we think is sort of a new normal?
So what I think one of the efforts that we did at Silver Peak was to continue to double down on focus. So think about your ideal customer profile and then hone the scope even further. So what we did was an analysis around all the industries and the impact of COVID on each of the different verticals. And then I put them in a higher risk, lower risk category. And then within that category, I took those industries and overlaid them over my strategic accounts. And so understood which industries might be more favorable to respond to our solutions.
Has the way that you've been measuring changed at all? And how do you anticipate measurement moving forward?
Well, I think it's a couple of things. One, for marketing, and especially for SDRs, we were really focused on driving pipeline. And there's nothing worse than if you have a region where the pipeline delivered is great, and you're celebrating that, but sales did not make its number. So I think we've transitioned to have much more emphasis on the bookings for the entire organization. So we're all aligned with the same end goal. We're not celebrating unless we're all celebrating together. We're also looking more at measuring engagement, and where it's not that clear around it's the handoff or not. It's like, are we engaging in these accounts, especially for installed base where you have sales doing more of the follow-up because they own that relationship. But what we found is that if you look at higher scoring, we built account-based scoring, and if you look at higher engagement within those accounts, we see a huge uptick in the win rate. And so those are measures that we then have that you can tie back to not just the softer old way of doing it to say, well, we've influenced this account. Well, what does that really mean? What is then the financial impact of that? And being able to tie that to an improved win rate, you're then able to tie it to an actual dollar amount. So that's another area where we focused.